Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Property AI Report. This is your weekly digest of all things property and AI, brought to you by me, Mel McCallion, and my co-host and good friend, Matt Goddard. Matt, how are you?
Oh, great, Mal. Always great to see you too.
Likewise. So you are somewhere very exotic today, aren't you?
I am in Costa del Cleethorpes again. Second week running, I'm sat in the trawlerman and beaming you to you thanks to Marston's Inns Wi-Fi.
Excellent. So if there are a few hiccups on the old Wi-Fi, blame the Astons. And if you hear bulls going in the background, as we did have last week, if anybody picked that up, then yes, apologies for the static in the background as well. Anyway, much more important than all of that, it's time for some property news. All right, Matt, it's the middle of August. It's a silly season, isn't it? There's not really a huge amount going on, if we're really honest, is there?
It's silly season in sense there's a lot of people away, isn't it? Silly enjoying themselves fools, and
Yeah,
myself included.
indeed. So there's one company, however, is not sleeping, and that is it's Rightmove. They are sending out, basically press release after press release. We're going to start with a Rightmove story, which is quite a nice one. It's all about buyers are checking on the neighbours before making a purchase. So this is so Rightmove has done a bit of research and has found out that essentially potential buyers are taking steps to avoid having to have an argument with their neighbour by doing research, they're doing research by checking on properties at different times of the day, expanding their area searches and checking local community groups for any disputes. Yeah, it looks like the kind of qualitative side of where people are going to live is dominating what we're searching for, as well as some of the more prosaic location stuff.
I was actually surprised people didn't do this already. It's one of those things where, I live directly across the road from a pub, so I'm quite used to how noisy it is around 11 p.m. because I know the people stumbling out of it. But do you not always go and check the area you're moving to and have a sniff around? Based on this article, maybe not.
Yeah, that absolutely begs the questions. What are you looking for in a home? Is it just literally what you can see and whether it's nice inside? Because that's, the quality of your life is going to be impacted from such top annoyances as noisy neighbors, 78%, parking spot poachers, 71%, and curtain twitchers, 70%. I don't know. How do you check if curtain twitchers are there? Because
Oh, that's quite an easy one, isn't it? You walk up and down the street and see how often someone twitches at you.
they might not be twitching at the time. Actually, it might be a highly prolific curtain twitchy area at this particular moment when you are walking up and down the street. They are at rest.
You need multiple checkpoints, don't you? And didn't you say that a couple of weeks back there was a website in Russia that was aiding this sort of thing with an actual data play or an AI play?
Yeah. So, this is when AI, yes, goes into the Russian Federation. And there is a website that will find that where actually you can put in an address and it will tell you what the neighbors are like from a profile perspective. So, the whole demography of them, but how many couples, whether they've got pets, all this sort of stuff. So you can do a real deep dive into, things that are going to really bug you forever. But obviously, there is a little bit of a dark side to that as well, because it also talks about ethnicity and all sorts of other stuff around it as well. So we're not there yet. We're just looking at curtain twitches over here at the moment. But yes, it's a story. It's been put out there, and it's of
We'll
all.
have to see, we'll have to see if 20EA, When Fresh, and Sprift have those data points yet.
That's right. Yes, I don't know if they're making up some of the more deep dives into the neighborhoods in the different areas just yet, but I'm sure they will in due course. Parking spot poachers being one of them. Anyway, next up on our property news for this week, we have a company called Move, who they've started what they're calling an online only valuation tool for digital agents. Now, Matt, I need you to take the lead on this one. What do you think?
Well, I'm surprised with the online only. I appreciate it when it comes to rentals and for being able to, if you've dealt with the agent before and it's a relet, or even you got sort of central London, 3 or 4 agencies, and you're just looking to give a price why you might do something online only. But when it comes to selling your property, do you not want to see the whites of people's eyes and actually tell whether they're going to be delivering the service that you want? I'm surprised that just how many people are saying that they literally want this online only offering, and I appreciate it. It's there to back up the new tool more than anything, right?
Yeah, and look, I'm not going to call into question the curtain twitcher stats from earlier, but I do question these stats a little bit in terms of how strongly Rightmove is saying that actually people want this particular. What they're saying is this enables agents to get in front of vendors of the future. and before the competition, claiming its research shows the digital generation are increasingly keen to proceed online with much of their initial contact with a sales agency. So before they even, as you say, see the whites of any agent's eyes, they're wanting purely to get these digital valuations and have nobody come around and spend ages just messing about on that. And it's difficult not to be cynical, isn't it, Matt? And
Yeah,
I don't want to be cynical. I want to be positive and all those kinds of things. But I find myself thinking, is this just a way of putting another product into the Rightmove suite that at some stage they're going to charge for the privilege of?
I could see if it was casting my mind back when Purple Bricks hit the scene and I was still at Repeat. We launched the Repeat Digital Agent, our RDA product, and great acronym because that's what you need to do in a software house, isn't it? But it was basically so that vendors could book a valuation online. So I could see using it almost as a paywall, Val style tool that then allowed you to book straight into the valuer's diary and not have to call up and go around the sort of houses of, no, pun not intended, of booking something into the diary. But actually the full journey, I do question that.
Yeah. It's numbers like Rightmove research shows that being responsive and communicating well is the number one reason why homeowners choose an agent when selling, with 97% saying it's essential or very important. And then they're just scooping that straight into with online agent valuation. Agents have the opportunity to showcase how responsive they are. It's like they can do that with any interaction, not just this one. Anyway, yeah, so it's a new product from Rightmove. It's to do with valuations, and therefore I'm sure we'll have some resonance round and about. But yes, overall, I think it's just carving out another thing that you can upgrade to, I'm sure. And
it sits nicely alongside the launch of their third phase of the brand campaign, doesn't it, as well, which is to do with making moving simpler. It aligns with that messaging.
yeah, and yeah, absolutely. So having something else to talk about. So this is, as Matt says, they're launching another phase of their "If They Can Find It, So Can You" campaign. You know, that they've obviously got the more money than most to launch these big advertising campaigns that they are talking about landing in Channel 4's 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown, first match of the Premier League season, which was last week, Liverpool Bournemouth. So yeah, they are throwing some of that earned cash into this particular war and seeing what sticks. But yeah, it's a steady campaign. I don't think it's necessarily groundbreaking in any particular way, but yes, they are trying to capture even more eyeballs to drive even more leads over the next few weeks as the kind of the core autumn market starts to kick on.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's all of our Rightmove news. We're moving into rent. Okay, so this is a story that comes from the Ricks, saying that there has been a drop in new properties for rents that is the steepest since COVID. All right, so pretty severe, really. It's funny because there doesn't seem to be any sort of consistency in whether we are losing loads of landlords or we're not losing loads of landlords, and therefore everything's fine. So the Ricks is saying that it's terrible, the weakest reading since April 2020, which, as everybody will know, was literally just after the first lockdown, which was the 23rd of March that particular year. So yeah, but then I read this morning somewhere else, I'll have to find it actually, that everything's okay.
But we're at that stage, aren't we, where the Renters' Rights Bill's going to start ping-ponging backwards and forwards when Parliament returns after the summer. And we're all holding our breath to see what happens with that. And it's interesting to see whether the volumes are dropping because of people getting concerned and making changes to the lettings approach now rather than waiting to see how the Renters' Rights Bill goes through. I've heard anecdotally of people putting longer initial terms in to try to secure tenancies, even though the talk of the Renters' Rights Bill is once it comes in, tenants can serve a month's notice at any time, and all tenancies will fall into under the sort of the Housing Act style catch-all. And it's like any change you're making now would be taking people off the market. But then I also heard someone serving notice on their tenant to get them out and increase the rent before all this came in, because, and one of the points is that it'll be a fair market price, but you'll have to negotiate them on rent reviews every year. So there's certainly more and more anecdotal information coming out. And I know certainly when I caught the Relocation Agent Networks Advisory Council, probably this time last year, there's a lot of landlord events going on to try retain portfolios of properties when landlords decided to move on. But it was definitely very clear that landlords, a lot of them were trying to sell up, especially accidental landlords who weren't in it to taking it not seriously, that's the wrong term of phrase, but in it like properly into it as a business
as
as
a
opposed to
profession.
yeah,
Exactly.
there you go. Thank you.
To earn a living, yeah, and that's what I've heard as well. Is that actually those with 1, 2 properties, that they've just come by are actually those are the ones that are selling up because it's way too complex and all that sort of stuff. Whereas actually then I was hearing that some of the larger, more corporate or more kind of portfolio landlords are actually snapping those up and then
Mm.
actually putting them back out to let again. So actually the story from this morning was actually Benham and Reeves in London. So they were saying that actually they see no mass exodus of landlords across England and saying that everything seems to be so.
Which is interesting because the Guardian article says the regional variations were strong with London and South East worst hit, which is where Benham and Reeves are based.
Yeah.
And certainly there's going to be a lot of noise for a while, isn't there?
Yeah, listen, damn, I suppose it's lies, damn lies statistics. I go back to that curtain twitcher stat, and I'm still not sure that's right. But anyway, we move on. Yeah, it remains to be seen what the impact is going to be of the Women's Rights Act, and indeed what's going to be included in it. But yes, there is a lot of froth and around the stories of whether it's actually having an impact or not. And I'm sure our listeners will have a view and do tuck in, submit. We're going to get onto listeners' questions later, as we said from last week. But yeah, if you've got any comments, anything you want to share, then do just pop it in. We'd be interested in everybody's thoughts on that as well. All right, that is our property news. Let us now talk AI tech news. All right, so our first story is it's a doozy of a little battle between two companies that aren't necessarily normally in our sort of headlines, but this is CloudFlare, who basically power about a third of the websites out there in terms of security and stuff. And they've got a product that they released, I don't know, probably a few weeks ago now. I think we talked about it, where it can block AI from scraping a website. So it can stop all of the content that you've put up there from becoming part of AI. That obviously carries with it risks because if you're invisible to AI, then are you invisible to becoming market essentially, certainly search or discovery. But anyway, it can protect your IP, it can protect your content, it can mean that anything that is copyrighted is no longer visible. So they did that, and then Perplexity, which is one of the new wave of AI-based search engines. All right. So Perplexity, it uses all of the different models and you can choose them. Indeed, if you wanted to use Claude or you wanted to use ChatGPT-5, then you can pick that. But it's a really smart way of finding things. It's Google AI overview, but better. And so what Perplexity is still trying to do is obviously search these websites that Cloudflare has said it cannot search. And now they're basically starting to shout at each other. Cloudflare is up in arms saying you shouldn't be getting past our defenses, and Perplexity saying we're going to have to because we need to service these customers. It's quite the bind, isn't it?
And I think it's really, just to add to your sort of recap summary, was that Cloudflare were one of the first to bring in a paywall to try and monetize the robots and scraping of the AI. So you could say, okay, you can access my website and my content, but you have to pay me for it. And they were one of the first ones to do that, which obviously stands out with that third of the websites going through Cloudflare. I think the reason it's really interesting for me is a lot of people early on, when these new AI scrapers turned up, immediately moved and blocked them, just thinking we don't know what this is and we want to shut it down. And that's when the large language models were training themselves back in 2018, 2019. They're really early doors. And some companies still haven't unblocked them. So when they chat GPT themselves and they're not there, it's like, wow, I'm going to start by removing the fact you blocked all the large language models from accessing your website, because it is as simple as the robots.txt has kept them away from your data, and therefore you're disappearing down those ratings and not showing at all. But actually, when we talk about where we're going with agentic AI and certainly the AI browsers now, you start to look at the fact that things like Perplexity Comet being their browser, it might be, say, go off and find me the top 20 agents in, where are you at the moment? Norfolk. We'll go in Norfolk. I'll go Northeast Lincolnshire. To find me the top 20 agents in Northeast Lincolnshire and bring me back the list of properties that match these criteria. That's a genuine search on my behalf. But so it's not an AI crawling and scraping your data, but it is an agentic AI going to those websites. So if Cloudflare start trying to block everything that you're doing from an AI, then the only things we're going to be able to access is you or I manually going on Chrome and searching for a website, which obviously destroys the whole ethos of where we're heading towards. So I think Cloudflare needs to get back in his box a little bit, and Perplexity is actually standing up for where we're all heading. And because of the fact Cloudflare are trying to monetize this, I don't know if maybe that's why I'm slightly more cynical of why they're getting into this fight.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is. It's trying to put the genie back in the bottle, trying to like plug the dam. Yeah, it just seems like a play that's from Cloudflare that is all about getting the headlines rather than necessarily making anything more practical. If you are finding that you're not appearing, listeners out there, or when you do a search on ChatGPT and you say who's the best estate agent in my area, or what are the big leading estate agents in my area, then do just have a little check and see how your settings are. Because if you have, as Matt said, inadvertently, or your web team or anybody has inadvertently blocked you from being accessible via AI, then you need to fix that pretty quickly, because yeah, being invisible in the world of AI is not a good place to be. All right, next up, some more fighting. This time it's Elon Musk. God, that guy likes to have a good punch up, doesn't he? So he's threatening Apple. But he's not really threatening. He's threatening Apple because of their association with OpenAI, because he really hates OpenAI. Quick bit of history. Elon Musk was actually on the founding team of OpenAI with Sam Altman. Musk then tried to take it private and basically take it over. The rest of the founders said no, do one. So Musk did one and has been throwing rocks from the sidelines ever since. Built XAI over the last few years very fast and is now in competition with OpenAI. And now he is having a go at AI on behalf of his, sorry, he's having a go at Apple on behalf of his startup XAI, accusing the iPhone maker of favoring OpenAI, breaching antitrust regulations because the rankings in the App Store on my phone, and I believe yours too, Matt, basically has OpenAI's ChatGPT as the number one ranked AI app and has had for most of the last 2, 3 years, I think.
And it's specifically around the fact that X is lower in that ranking. And so it's not just ChatGPT with whatever billions of users and millions and billions of revenue that's top of those charts, but it's the fact that X is so far down and that they're pandering to Apple's needs, but totally ignoring the fact that DeepSeek, the Chinese reasoning model, was also bang up there at one point. So if
Yeah.
there really is some dodgy stuff going in, then surely that began blocked rather than Mr. Musk.
Yeah, and it just feels so like childish. It's basically my toy is not featuring in this particular list top 10, and it should be. And it's make it better, mate.
Yeah,
There's so much that actually is a bit weird about XAI that means it's not mainstream. Having a
that's
mode that's called
spicy mode.
yeah, exactly. Having these new images that you can actually set up a companion AI, and she wears very few clothes and will tell you all the things that you don't want to hear. All that sort of stuff is just weird. So it's not mainstream. It's not something that most people will necessarily gravitate to. Whereas ChatGPT is pretty straight down the line and actually very helpful. As you say, DeepSeek was very much the thing at the beginning of the year. They're likely to bring out their third iteration pretty soon. I think in the next couple of months. They delayed it, I think, this month or this week for a little while. But yeah, it will stand or fall on its own merits, really, just like everything really has.
Mhm.
It does seem very, yes, it seems very petulant, but then that's not unusual when it comes to that particular protagonist. So, while we're on the subject of OpenAI, its CEO Sam Altman has said that yes, AI is in a bubble, Matt.
This is, to put it in context, this is a week where Sam Altman's been backpedaling quite ferociously as well, and we'll come on to that later in the show list. But having said that he was scared by how amazing ChatGPT-5 was, it's been a bit of a damp squib of a launch, and a lot of the hype and the press has been rolled back, very similar to Apple Intelligence and the way they removed all their marketing, but maybe not quite as extreme. And in this one, Sam's
Not
actually
quite yet.
come out.
Yeah.
And Sam's actually come out, hasn't he, in this one and said that AI is in a bubble. And then to put that in context, says there is overhype around the AI valuations that are bouncing around there. And also there's emphasizing that shift towards agentic AI over traditional LLMs. So he's backpedaling quite ferociously. And I think in that more subdued mode, he's gone for, yes, we're in a bubble rather than this is the future. Is that the way you read it, Matt?
Yeah, like I said, it's almost like he's on the back foot. He's in defensive mode, and almost it's just like everything is now kind of he's apologizing for everything instead of historically he has been hype meister about everything AI. And look, obviously we have a certain level of, as we've referred to before, cynicism about a lot of this stuff, but at the same time, genuinely think this is pretty groundbreaking and it's going to change everything. But yes, at the same time, there have been some overblown claims. I think he said at the launch of ChatGPT, it's like having an infinite number of PhDs in your pocket. And it's really not what it's like at all, actually. It's a little bit like having something quite annoying that's really quite, yes, quite upfront. So yeah, I think it's an interesting way of articulating it. I think he is backpedaling. I think and it's the first time I've heard him truly defensive about everything, and that's quite the moment. But yeah, as you say, Matt, we'll get on a little bit to what's happened with ChatGPT-5, because as we've spoken about, I think in each of the 2 episodes since ChatGPT-5 launched, we haven't been that impressed. But yeah, we will talk about a little bit more about what that has ended up being in a sec. What we've also seen is that ChatGPT is a bit more in bed with a lot of sort of third-party products and services, and Dropbox is probably one of the biggest ones that it's been involved with recently.
It's gone more consumer focused with some of these, hasn't it? And it's, I suppose, in the rate at which people like Google have added memory and Anthropic added memory this week. So you've got a lot of people catching ChatGPT up with, it's almost the table stakes. And you'd expect more to be coming out of OpenAI, and have added Microsoft Teams, Google Drive, and Dropbox as connectors. So there's much more a case of you can automatically link those third-party applications if you're using ChatGPT and bring them into context for any of the queries or prompts that you're running. So there's much more consumer focused with these, but it's quite minimal. And Sam Altman confirmed they'd prioritise the launch of GPT-5 over some of these consumer pieces, haven't they?
Yeah, and you can imagine it's been pretty intense for them at to this point. But what I also think is quite interesting and slightly off topic is that ChatGPT, the compute needed for ChatGPT-5 has been so significant that actually that's been a real problem for them, a real headache and a real focus. Again, nudging all this other stuff to the side, is from what I heard is 24% more compute being used, because ChatGPT-5 auto selects what it needs to do. And historically, most people were just using the default ChatGPT 4.0, which is the quick model, which doesn't use as much compute to think. Whereas now, because it's got the router, which has disappeared and is coming back, but we'll talk about that in a sec, it's actually consuming more compute, and that is causing them another big headache, because that's costing them a heck of a lot more money as well. Yeah, I think they're getting distracted. ChatGPT-5 has not gone smoothly by any stretch of the imagination, and they just seem to be almost flailing around a little bit and trying to find some good news stories. So there's a couple more quick stories on AI and tech. The Google AI overviews has been linked to a 25% drop in publisher referrals. Okay, so again, Google keeps trying to fight the good fight and say, no, this has not had any impact on the links that we send through. Everything's fine, nothing to see here. But every other metric or every other report that comes out, again, this is from publishers. Also this week, there's been an earnings call transcript from, an earnings call from a company called IAC, which is over in the States. And it's seen, and it quotes that Google search traffic has declined from 52% to 28%, okay, over the last year. All right, so that's huge. And again, Google just going, no, nothing to see here. But at the same time, ChatGPT's traffic is up 135% to 5.7 billion, which we touched on a couple of weeks back. So yeah, this keeps telling the story that everybody's starting to use AI for search. Google is still trying to tell everybody that it's not, but all of these evidence-based things, these are actual regulatory filings saying, our search is going down from Google, and that is a risk. So yeah, just another indicator, Matt, of the fact that this is becoming much more mainstream and much more a way that we're all doing searches.
It's here to stay, isn't it? My 70-plus father.
All right.
Dad.
Our final story is all about, yeah, exactly right. I'm sorry, I think we lost a little bit of that, Matt. Could you just say the whole sentence again?
It was more just saying that it's prevalent in all walks of life now, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is just a big movement, and consumer behavior, when it changes, that's when everything's up for grabs again. That's when a lot of the incumbents are going to start to find that things are changing. And again, that's something that obviously we will always keep you up to date on and upfront about. But yeah, something that's a very big focus, I think, for both of us in what we do, me and Matt. Final story on AI and tech. Matt, love this headline. It's doom prompting is the new doom scrolling. What does that mean?
Firstly, I'm back.
You are. Yes.
That's
Thanks
excellent to
very
know.
much.
I was off doom prompting in the background to find out what's going on. So this is apparently, and I can understand this, we're replacing our dopamine hits from social media by going down the route of doom prompting. So getting that little bit of response to query and then following up and disappearing down that rabbit hole. And I know when you've been doing your 60+ tours of the UK over the last few weeks, you've often spotted something on the A11 on the right hand side and gone off asking ChatGPT, haven't you? And you've been doom prompting your way around the country.
It's great. And Is it more healthy? I feel I'm finding out things that actually are useful to an extent, but at least aren't quite just the this is some random influencer's opinion on which particular, I don't know, hair coloring I should use or whatever. So yeah, I think it's obviously becoming much more of a thing, and people are asking me questions about things that they are curious about, but I think that's really healthy. I actually think, again, the thing about the sort of the ability to find out information really quickly at scale about anything that strikes you. I think everybody should be doing this. Frankly,
Mhm.
that's my take. You should be asking more questions of AI when something strikes you, because if you're anything like me, random questions occur to you at any point of the day. And you can just ignore it, as you always have done through life, because there's nobody's going to sit there and listen and answer those questions about what is that thing on the left-hand side of the A11. But yeah, it's just a really interesting way of using the technology, of getting used to it and understanding what it can do, and also finding out some little nuggets of information at the same time. For example, the transporter bridge in Middlesbrough, built in 1910, it's actually since 2019 they found some problems with its structure, and it's been shut since then. Now, you might find that very boring as a fact, but when I went to Middlesbrough for the last of my tour dates, I stood by it and wondered what the hell it was, and was able to find out within seconds. So it's been really interesting. Anyway, I've
Thanks for
talked on.
sharing, Mal.
You're very welcome. I've got many more of those, which I obviously will share over time. Please don't turn off. Sorry. And I might save those for my personal conversations instead. Anyway, that is all about our kind of doom prompting, doom question, and very much doom talking on this particular show. But we're going to move away from that, and we're going to move on to our tool of the week. This week, it's all about ChatGPT again, isn't it, Matt?
It is, and the model picker is back.
It-
The model picker's back.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the model picker is back. So yeah, I'm just going to pick this up a little bit in terms of your service. So yeah, the model picker, which was you didn't even have to think, you didn't have to worry about reasoning model, whether it was just one of the quick kind of answering generative AI ones. Essentially, that was the thing. You just type in your prompt and it would sort you out. It would work out whether it needed to deep think this stuff or just go and give you a real fun, frivolous, quick answer. But everybody complained because people wanted to actually know whether this was going to take ages or whether it was going to be really quick. And yeah, a lot of people got very angry, to the point, Matt, which I think is one of your favorite stories of the week. 4.0 is back.
That's it. Am I back?
You are back. But yes, let's carry on as if you are.
So 4.0's back, and it's available in the model picker. But I couldn't catch there if you were saying about the other models that are available in the picker now as well. So it's not just auto, the model picker chooses, but you've also got your fast, your thinking, so you can select these. I'll tell you what was quite interesting actually, because while it's back, and you were talking about there, the compute time is up 24%, and ChatGPT's been fighting to deal with this. But actually, the number of people I've discovered who didn't know there was a reasoning model available previously, and now with the model picker, they're actually getting in-depth responses. I'm not going to name them on this because I know they're listening, and it's not the same person who was amazed when you told them that you could search the web on ChatGPT, something that's been available since 2021 or what, 2023 or whatever it was. And the fact that the reasoning model's kicking in automatically and more people are utilizing that just naturally. So I think the model picker and people realizing it's available is a great thing, but also it's obviously is shown from a product point of view that maybe ChatGPT, with all of the data available to them, didn't have quite this sort of background to make that decision. But to be fair to them, they're a new business, aren't they? Like, as big as they are and as quickly
Yeah.
as they've grown, they've not got the experience of doing something like that.
And as humans, we are very default set, right? So if the default is 4.0 answer quickly, then many, if not most people, will just leave it as the default and sit there and expect the answer to be as precise as if it was a reasoning model. And I'd like you, I think this is really interesting because it's going to introduce many more people to this idea of reasoning within ChatGPT and within AI. So yeah, again, tool of the week, do go and have a play around, use the reasoning models, find out how they differ. And if you ask a question in 4.0 or one of the quicker models, and then ask the same question in the reasoning model, you'll see it thinking, and it will give you a much more detailed and accurate answer as a result. So really powerful. And also some of these queries are now available on the free level of ChatGPT as we think. All right, we've just about got time, although probably not, but I'm going to go for it anyway, to do our weird AI of the week. All right, so this week, only because I'm mildly obsessed with robots. That's right, I love robots. And I think that these ones coming out of China are hilarious until obviously they start getting guns and stuff. But right now, they don't have guns. What they're doing is they're running and they're hitting each other, not us yet, which is also good. But this is the China's robot games. Okay, they've discovered that actually people quite like to look at all this stuff and to watch robots punching each other. So that is what we have as televisual fare these days. So again, a lot of these robots will give you some level of comfort that we're not in anywhere near doom just yet, because they can't actually, yes, hit each other very easily, nor can they run very fast or do any of the other stuff that they're supposed to do in these robot games. But Matt, did you catch any of the action from this particular event?
I was intrigued both with the impressive dexterity and their limitations, which probably sounds like us on most days, is it?
Pretty much, yeah. Default setting, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And the way that they were carted out when they'd been they'd run out of batteries or whatever it was. Again, was quite funny. But yes, so do find if you search up the China robot games, then you'll be able to see some of the footage from that. But it's very funny and yeah, worth a look. All right, Matt, I think we've just about sneaked under our target time, around 30 minutes for this particular episode. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, even from the Marston's pub with the rather terrible Wi-Fi settings. But thank you for
They did so well last week,
carrying
didn't
on. Yeah, listen, it's yes, all good. So listen, thank you also for listening in to this week's Property AI Report. We will be back next week with even more, hopefully a bit more property news, but certainly some more AI and tech news, because that just keeps on going. It doesn't sleep. But yeah, we'll be back next week, and Matt will be back in situ somewhere a little bit less reliant on pub Wi-Fi. But yeah, we'll see you next week. Thanks again.
Thanks.